Bring this meeting to order. Donna, roll call.
Chairperson Oberg,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Carpenter,
Here.
Commissioner Wilson,
Here.
Commissioner Case,
Here.
Commissioner Hollins,
Here.
Commissioner Jocelyn. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance. Welcome, everyone, to the Clean City Commission meeting. Consideration of minutes for approval. Consideration of the October 19th, 2023 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Consideration of public comments. Those wishing to address the commission shall fill out a request form in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The commission may not respond to speakers during the call to public. The commission may direct the staff to study the matter or request that the matter be placed on future agenda. Is there anyone here in the public like to come up and speak? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to, we're going to move forward to number 5, reports. And we want to welcome some guests here tonight and let them go ahead and come up and speak so they don't have to sit through the whole entire meeting if they don't want to. I'd like to welcome Chief Rusty Cooper. And if you'd like to come up, do you want to come up? Anything to say?
Thank you, Chairperson, Commission members. I'm providing you kind of an update on what has been done with our neighborhood services. Last time I spoke to you, we were talking about specific incidents and priorities. Well, short time after that, the decision was made. Department heads in cooperation with the city manager to rearrange and restructure. I would say a little bit, but it's fairly significant. So in an effort to make things more efficient on development services side of the city, part of that was also to make things more efficient in regards to code enforcement, nuisance abatement, neighborhood services as well. So as of January 1st, I imagine you're all aware, 2 of my neighborhood service officers have been reassigned to development services, still filling that role. And then the remaining 2 have been, for my side of the house, have been reclassified or retitled as animal services. So that's what's happening there. Currently, of the 2 that were transferred to development services, 1 has resigned and they're actively pursuing, hiring for another person. I was hoping the development services director would be here to provide some of that, to give you some answers, and I don't know if they're coming in or not. But so that's what we're doing, and the goal is to make it a little more efficient, quite a bit more efficient, because there's codes and abatements that they were investigating, that on my side we were investigating other things in regards to crashes and not crashes, but dilapidated vehicles and front yard issues, backyard issues, trailers, RV trailers. So they'll still be doing that. It's just now going to be done on that side of the house. And the city's in the process of making community notification and making sure our website and phone numbers are lined up. And I'm hoping that's been completed at this point. So am I missing anything else? I'll be happy to answer questions.
Quick question. You said they'll still be, so community development is going to be handling the vehicles and the on blocks and parking, or are you guys, what exactly are you guys going to still be handling?
Development services under Sean Osterman is handling the code enforcement side.
Okay.
So basically, if it's off the street, they're handling it. So if it's on somebody's driveway or in somebody's yard or on a property, it's going to be handled by Development Services, code enforcement.
And it's on the street, then
And it'll be
you would,
law enforcement.
law enforcement
Yeah,
handle
then
it.
that usually, so that's a general guideline to follow.
And it's my understanding that animal control is still under KPD?
Correct.
So that's basically all you have now is just animal control
Yes.
for neighborhood services?
That's it. Yep.
Okay.
And we did a study, and I call it a study of time and call assignments, and about 60, at least 60% of all of 4 of them, there was obligated to animal service-related calls. And then the remainder of there was neighborhood services. That was just based on call load and people calling in.
Fair.
So that's where, I think this is going to work long-term. This is better. It makes it more organized, more concise. It's one location. There's no confusion internally or externally.
Yeah.
But animal services will still be under the police department. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any
Chief?
questions?
Yes, Chief, so you've, for the development services and the KPD, there's only 3 active employees that do these investigations and for property and for street, correct? You got 3 people, you said 2 went to,
I only have, originally, when I spoke to you last time, I had 4 neighborhood service officers, and they were responsible for the code, that they were responsible for investigating, as well as animal service calls. That was part of their responsibility. As of January 1st, 2 have been transferred with sole responsibilities of neighborhood service code enforcement. I'm mixing up terms. That's happened a few times in some of these community meetings, and that's no good. Anyway, they're responsible for code enforcement, what you guys are definitely interested in a lot as well. But the remaining 2 that I'm keeping are now solely assigned and responsible for animal services.
okay, so code enforcement right now only has 1 person.
Because of the 2 I gave, 1 was resigned. and There's
Exactly.
currently 1,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
So the program that we started doing the last meeting, where we would submit violations and, or friendly letters, are those going to be more backlogged now, since there's only 1 person handling all this?
That I couldn't tell you. That would be for Shonda.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Mike and Sean are supposed to be here. I think they're coming, so
Yeah.
we'll be able to answer.
I can say this, as the open cases that we had were consolidated and updated and made sure we knew what the status was, and those were transferred over as well.
One more quick question. Your team is going to still be called Neighborhood Services. Do you know if Sean's people are going to be put back to code enforcement or
So
what?
my understanding at this point, they will, you'd have to ask him to confirm.
Okay.
Mine are not. We will be animal services.
Oh, just animal services?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just animal services, because it'll add to the confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We toyed around with different names, community officers, and it starts, they are specifically animal services, and so that makes it pretty clear what they're responsible for. So. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Donna, at this time, can we come back to the reporting when Mike and Sean show up? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to old business, event calendar. Update from the Clean City Commission on calendar events, discussion, possible action regarding any new or rescheduled events. That'll be Keelan.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the commission. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys this evening. Couple items that we have, actually, that Ed had noted. There is a United Way cleanup scheduled for April 13th. That's my understanding that the location is still to be determined. And then there's also an e-waste event that's partnered between the City of Kingman and Mojave Community College, and that's scheduled for April 27th at the Public Works Department, for the Public Works facility. And then that's all I have for the calendar, unless I'm missing something.
So Donna, we discussed at the agenda,
Sorry.
do you have that, Keelan? That's the United Way City of Caring, right? And we didn't have an exact date yet, so I just to make, for the record, we will be having an event, and it's going to be dependent on when the United Way is. So we already have that on the calendar, it's scheduled, ready to go, and Donna will let everybody know as soon as we get the date and the time and the location. And Donna, were we going to do the April 27th also? Okay. So as of right now, as far as Clean City Commission, United Way, depending on what dates they pick, Donna will let us all know time and date.
Okay, I've got one question. Do you have any type of event flyers for the e-waste event, to get out to the community so everybody knows what's going on? Because a lot of times I never hear about these, only with me being in the commission here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ed, do we have flyers for the e-waste?
Yes,
Or-
MCC will be putting out a flyer here shortly. They are confirmed, it is on the 27th. As far as the time goes, I think they usually go from 11, but once the flyer is sent to us, I can send it to Donna, out, as well as it'll be on social. We did have a meeting with United Way today, and she's going to take that back to her director, but the 13th is what we agreed on, and again, the time for that would be 8 to 11, I believe. Items would be at their United Way office. But again, once that flyer gets here, I'll be on it,
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Mr. Chairman,
Any other questions?
in September, when United Way had their day of caring and we did the community cleanups in Butler and Birdland, the cactus cleaners came in and hauled 16,000 pounds of trash out of those two areas. We had one person who lived in the city that showed up for a few minutes. And so my thing with the United Way this time was, if we get participation from the people who live in the areas that we're doing the cleanups in, the cactus cleaner would be glad to come in and assist it, but we're not going to be the only ones that come from Golden Valley to Kingman to do that by ourselves. So if we have any contacts out there that can get people that have haul capacity or just muscle, then we would be more than happy to participate again. So just
I'm thinking, Donna, maybe you can get with Wayne and maybe some of our volunteers so that we can get Wayne to come to that. And between the both of you, maybe you can put together a nice team of people.
we would definitely be interested in helping because it's really made a big difference out there. So, but we just don't want to be the only ones when we don't even live here. So.
Thank you, Wayne.
And then specific to the event calendar as well, and maybe we already covered this, so I apologize if I'm repeating something, but then it looks like the next Clean City Commission meeting is scheduled for April 18th.
Correct. Okay, moving along to item B, Adopt a Block Program update. I asked Randy to kind of just give us an update, how that's coming along in the last couple months.
Yep, thank you. We're promoting it. I don't know, Donna wrote here, the Adopt a Block program has several groups whose permits are about to expire and are eligible for renewal. Applications and letters were sent out to the groups asking them to renew their Adopt a Block permits. 2 renewals have been received. 1 application was returned by post office as an incorrect address, and the other group has not responded. So, and Donna's going to follow up with those groups as well. So we continue to promote and show up to different events. and just waiting for people to fill out applications to want to participate. That's basically it. And, yeah.
Thank you. And for some of the newer commissioners, are you getting the information on these events? If you have time to go help Randy, and a lot of times Mike shows up also. Perfect, great, thank you.
Actually blew the last first Friday. It came so fast. So, oops. But yeah, we try to show up to the first Friday events, and then we'll try to show up to other events during the year this year,
Perfect.
you know, wherever we're allowed, I guess.
Okay, moving on to item number C, Clean City Commission vacancies. We still have one vacancy out there, and we'd like to welcome our newest member, Wayne Hollins.
Yay.
Little clerical error, but he's back with us for a whole nother year, and we appreciate that. New business. Anyway, that was new business. Oh, new business, election of officers. Discussion action regarding select new chairperson and vice chair.
Well, I've got to comment on this here. This past year, the city has went through a lot of changes. The commissions have gone through a lot of changes. But one thing that's been kind of constant is Commissioner Olberg has been very active in pursuing these events. I mean, he's really been going at it, dealing with you, Keelan. And I think he's very in tune, and I like to keep that momentum going. So I'm going to nominate Chairman Olberg for another term.
I'll second.
We have a second. We have a motion on the floor. Mike made a motion,
It's up to you, bro.
and you second, and I can't third my own, can I?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And vice chair, I make a motion that Randy stay as vice chair, will work beside me here, and keep things going as they're going.
Unless someone else wants to do it, I'm willing.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Motion carries.
As long as you show up, I never have to do anything, really.
Thank you. I think that's okay, item B, weed abatement project information. Keelan, that's you.
Thank you, Chairman. Interim City Manager Grady Millard directed staff to prioritize weed abatement in public rights-of-way. Staff from parks, streets, and airport operations all assisted in this operation by cutting weeds and spraying herbicides in pre-emergent. This project has been in progress for approximately two months, and to date, looks like they have abated approximately 1.6 million square feet of cutting and spraying.
Question.
Sir.
That doesn't include the utilities right-of-ways, right? Because there's a right-of-way, I guess it's part of the utilities,
Mhm.
and it's that kind of Wash Creek thing just north of Home Depot, between Home Depot and that shopping center. There's weed trees in there. So that's
So
probably
to
down
your
the road.
point, that particular location hasn't been addressed, but I think that it could be part of this. And I can certainly get with Jack and his team. We have a temp services crew on the utility side that we focus on alleys or easements where our meters, water lines, utilities are located, that we typically have on staff, during the summer months. That wouldn't be one of those locations either that we address, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah, it's
I
gonna
know
be
what
a
you're talking
job.
about, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's gonna be a job.
I guess we've never talked about utility easements and whose responsibility that is. I would imagine it's the utility company, right? Power companies, do they share in that or not? Or is that city responsibility?
You know, what comes to mind is, which isn't specific to the city or in the city limits, but our utility easements out in the Butler area. Typically, those are the homeowner's responsibility, but, you know, it's difficult to get them to address those. So for instance, that's a lot of the area that we focus on for our utility crews, just because they pose a safety risk out there, you know, when our meter readers are trying to read meters and stuff. But to answer your question, I don't have an answer to your question on whose responsibility those are, specifically the one, you know, between Safeway and Home Depot, but I can certainly find out.
And actually, I think you did answer our question. I remember going back a year or two, you're right, the alleyways that are actually utility easements, that is the homeowner's responsibility. to
Yeah,
take care
that
of
drainage is kind of the caveat.
But that
to it,
drainage
you
over
know?
there,
Yeah.
I don't even, is
Yeah.
that even a
So,
utility
for
easement?
instance, like, you know, as that drainage progresses to the east and goes into Wallach Ranch area, that's something that Jack's team handles.
Gonna need that drainage ditch for the monsoons.
Yes, sir.
Monsoon season, it's gonna get all clogged up.
And I think that's all part of the Coronado drainage, I think is what that's called. But I'll get with Jack and then follow up with an email.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm all for cutting weeds and stuff like that. I'm not so excited about spraying chemicals. Just a comment. Just my personal thing, being a permaculture type person that doesn't fit with what I'm believe in, so
Understood.
for what it's worth.
Kind of second that.
Noted, thank you, Wayne.
Got a question, is it possible to get the fire department involved in like large areas that have weeds and maybe they can do a training exercise by burning the weeds and have enough people there to, you know, it'd be a training exercise, so, you know, but that'd be the
Almost like
fastest
a-
way to get rid of the weed.
Almost like a controlled burn, like
Yeah.
BLM or, I don't know that we've ever discussed that, but I'll certainly ask and follow up.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd come to that.
Bring hot dog.
Anything else? Questions for Keelan on weed abatement? We're actually going to come back to reports. Mr. Mike Rodriguez showed up, and I'd like to welcome him up and let him introduce himself and tell everyone what he's doing. Thank you, Mike.
Good evening, Chair Oberg and Commissioners. I'm Mike Rodriguez. I've been appointed as the Interim Director of Development Services, a new department that was created here at the first year that the City Council was that approved that City Manager Miller had recommended that we take what was community development out from under the fire department, and we've transferred those over into our standalone department as development services. So development services is going to be comprised of myself as the interim director, and the building inspectors, planners, our front counters, permits counter staff, and then we brought over 2 positions from the police department that were neighborhood services officers. Are going to remain titled as neighborhood services officers, but they're going to be primarily working on code enforcement type activities, municipal code enforcement, zoning code enforcement, and other types of city code enforcement. The 2 officers that remained at the police department will be primarily working on animal control. That's going to be their role there. So that being said, we've got quite a bit of activity going on both on the permitting side of things. We're one of the planning and zoning and permits, we've got a significant backlog in our permitting activities, and so that's one of the things that I've been tasked to do, is to see what we can do to try to streamline some of those processes, and we're working on that to hopefully get that done and get our development community and their applications and projects moving in a more timely manner. That being said, one of the other things that I think this commission is probably more concerned about is what our code enforcement activity is going to be. I mentioned that we had 2 positions that were brought over from the police department that we currently have. And part of the reason for my being a little bit tardy for this meeting is I was meeting with HR because we only had one person that actually came over. Before this new department was created, one of the other neighborhood services officers had resigned, so we only have one person currently that's working code enforcement. So our code enforcement activities are going to be, a little slow in getting moving along. However, Sean Osterman, who was the community development manager, he's still working on our department. He's the building safety manager. He's going to be overseeing the building inspectors and plan reviewers, along with the neighborhood services officer. So Sean is going to have his hands full while he's overseeing the new code enforcement activities. Like I say, with just the one officer that we brought over. So I just ask for the community, this commission, and the city council, and everyone else to be somewhat patient with us while we move along and trying to get this program up and running and working efficiently. So with that, that's the description of what our department is comprised of and how we're going to be doing. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me.
I have a couple questions. Are your officers going to continue being neighborhood services, or city council planning on changing the name back to code enforcement?
Currently, we're going to remain with that title of neighborhood services officers. I'm not sure how the 2 officers that remained with the police department, if they may have their titles changed to animal control officers. I'm not certain of that. I suspect that may be what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But our officers, we're going to continue having them titled as neighborhood services officers, and that will be their role. But like I say, their role is going to be to follow up on code enforcement complaints that we receive, and do what they can to bring those cases into compliance. One of the other things I did want to add is that we're working with IT to be able to create a new webpage just for our development services department. And one of the objectives that we made is to have a dedicated telephone line that'll have voicemail, and a dedicated email address that we can take in some of those code enforcement complaints that may come forward from the public, and then we can follow them up in that way. Our goal is to have the phone line answered by a live body as much as possible. However, it will have the capability to have a voicemail box attached to it, and we'll be taking those voicemail messages off that may become code enforcement concerns or complaints.
Okay, I got a question. So how's the code enforcement or neighborhood services going to handle these violations? Are they just going to simply just write a violation, or it's going to be followed up and escalated if need be to get the violations corrected?
We're still working on how we're going to accomplish that. I think initially what we're thinking is that we're going to be making contact with the property owner or whoever the violator may be. My experience at other places where I've worked at overseeing code enforcement, we initially make contact. If we're able to do that, communicate what the violations may be, identify them, make sure that the violator is clear what the violations may be, and then offer some suggestions on how they can bring those things into compliance. We're going to seek voluntary compliance as much as we possibly can. That's really the goal, is to get these code enforcement type nuisance complaints to just be brought into compliance, so that these property owners can clean up whatever mess they may have, whatever the violation may be. But we're generally we'll give a period of time to be able to allow them to bring the case into compliance, and follow up on that in a timely manner, so that we can make certain that progress is being made. My experience has been that if we work with these violators as much as possible, we're more inclined to get voluntary compliance, even if it takes a little bit longer. But the goal is always to reach compliance as quickly and as efficiently as we possibly can.
One other question, point of contact in your department, would that still be Sean, as far if there was a code enforcement question, or one of our commissioners had a question with maybe a particular violation, if it's possible, it would be a violation?
The primary point of contact overseeing neighborhood services will be Sean Osterman. However, in the hierarchy in our department, myself as the director, Sean is the manager, primarily overseeing building and safety and code enforcement. Sean would be the initial point of contact. If Sean can't be reached for whatever reason, feel free to contact me anytime. So, you know, we'll make certain that we have somebody that you can talk to and somebody that can follow up, and like I say, myself or Sean, but Sean will be the primary point of contact.
Okay. And then the other item I had was, prior to this transition, we had 3 violations that we were looking into. And I would ask that if you could please get with Keelan and get us some kind of disposition on those, whether they're in the middle of an investigation, whether they're investigating, or they're stuck in limbo with the transition.
And that's one of the things too that's going to be taking place during this transition and during this kind of, I'm going to call it an introductory period of what we're trying to do the things that we want to do, is to take some of these previously open cases that may not have any resolution to them, especially those, we'll try to prioritize those and determine which ones we need to spend more time and attention on. Like I say, I just ask that people be patient with us because we've only got 1 NSO right now. And then Sean will be doing as much as he can to be able to assist with that as well. You know, we're constantly getting, you know, calls about potential violations that may exist from residents and from business owners and from other members of the public. And, you know, we're doing our best to be able to respond to those in a timely manner. And I assure you that over a period of time, we'll have a fine-tuned machine running with code enforcement. It's going to just take us a little bit of time to make that happen.
Mr. Chair, we have the Helping Hands program, and so far we haven't did anything with that due to maybe we don't have any referrals or somebody that doesn't meet the program requirements. I just want to make sure that that's still going to continue, and we try to use that program when it's appropriate as opposed to issuing somebody a citation or something when we can handle it by using that program.
I'm completing my 2nd month here with the city. I'm not familiar with that particular program. However, I'll make myself, you know,
And when Mike and I
I'll get
met
myself
last week.
educated about that and see
Yeah.
what we can do to be able to make
Yeah.
that one of the tools that we can utilize to do the things that we're going to need to be doing.
I'll get with Mike again. We had a meeting last week and I didn't have a chance to get into that part, but
Right.
yeah, we'll talk about that and I'll tell you what the program's about and how it works and
I look forward to
we
having
can
that
help.
discussion.
great, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else for Mike?
And any other questions for me or any other information I can provide?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Mike.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6, announcements by commission members. Do we have any announcements anybody like to make? Nope.
Yep, I've got well, it's not an announcement, it's like an agenda request. I spoke about this several times in the past. I don't know what's come to it because we haven't really discussed it. But I'd like to see if we could still get signage up that says do not litter and maybe special receptacles for those particular signage. And I'm not talking about through the whole city, just in key areas where we know there's been a lot of litter, like over at the Powerhouse, Locomotive Park, places like that, you know. So I'd like to see if we can discuss that next time about getting that set up. And the other thing I would like to have put on the agenda is possibly bringing back a recycling program. Maybe at one time it didn't work for various reasons. I'm not sure what those reasons were, but I think it'd be a good idea because I know there's a lot of waste out there. And we could come up with a plan to enact that, that would be great. And that's all I have.
Mr. Chair. Speaking of the recycling program, I think that would be an excellent thing to bring up because back in 2017, when we were still doing recycling, I personally went out and bought a recycling trailer and I haven't been able to use it because I hadn't any place to take the stuff after I collected it. So I would definitely like to see that on the agenda again.
Thank you. Item number 7, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.